your live. Probably. I'll bring you a little closer because I don't feel like talking too loudly. It's only 10:08. But my voice resonates. Hi, I'm Elliot. And like yourself, but also unlike, because we're different, I'm going through a particularly transformative time in my life. It's coinciding with this grand transformation of perspective. So, the paradigm change. So as to be almost a completely new frame, a new lens. Which by scope includes whatever we're talking about. So you could have a paradigm of a sport, paradigm of relationship. A good way of thinking of paradigm and what it could apply to is like concepts, but overarching, like worldviews. And the nature of a shift in paradigm is really like recognizing the paradigm, the limits of the paradigm that you hold. Because then it becomes a paradigm. And you're like, holy fuck. It could be something else. And then out of necessity, something else is what it becomes. And what's grand about now is that, and why it's such a good way, an effective, an accurate way of expressing the transformations that are occurring in the world, is that in its container, it includes anything and everything. It includes essentially subjectiveness. And when your subjectiveness goes through a paradigm shift, well, now happens. My astrology natal chart has been off the fucking shizane. And a way of interpreting that, not the natal chart actually, but my saying that is you being someone else with a different interpretation, is a relationship with natal charting, is a marker of cycles. Because, like, for instance, the Saturn return takes 28-ish years for Saturn to travel across the zodiac, the constellation, like ecliptic plane. And so you can accurately describe your life in cycles in terms of this movement of the planets and their cycles and relationships with each other, even if you just use it to break down time. And then use that breaking down, that like chunking of time, to elucidate patterns of self, and then maybe patterns of society, and then maybe everything, and then maybe nothing. Fuck it. The least of what I do is on camera, but I like sharing with you. And it's been really intense. If intense can come in lots of different flavors. I'm a very physically oriented person. And over the last couple of years, I've been learning to orient my sense of self in terms of other faculties, like my mentality, my emotions, my senses. And what's happening now is a return to like the kinesthetic, tactile frames of reference, me and my body, and relating to things through movement. Where it has to be a completely different experience, because what I'm able to do physically as my body is different, but also my skills of mental and emotional distinctions. Anyways, it's bananas. I'm doing a lot of physical work. Not a lot of talking. Also, I don't mind sharing vulnerably. The last few days have been like heart hard. It's like you don't know when you've got nothing, in a way, until after many iterations of losing, you have discerned yourself to be in this state of like unattachedness, rock bottomness. And then to lose. what you didn't know you couldn't have. So surfing those emotions, it's kind of like loneliness, it's kind of like deep despair. It's why the paradigm shift is occurring, because it needs to. It's not just by nature across the universe. To hold oneself so steadfastly to the good. And have so little to show for it. And not in comparison to the bad and for all that the bad has. Because the bad don't got shit. It's like, just notice it's like just living. Anyways, I don't know. So I wanted to talk with you, the you that I know and don't know, but know, and love and appreciate the most. Because I can know that and not need to know things that are less important. Discovering the true depths, the endless depth of loneliness, necessitates recognizing a truth that doesn't have to be true. I could imagine how it isn't true or couldn't be true, but it turns out in the universe we live in, it is true. Phew. That in our loneliness, we are not alone. And that family, soul tribe, hearts of resonation, we play our own parts in the same part of the song simultaneously. So it's going to be a little different, but I reckon that you're going through something like it too. And so I have no answers because I don't do that. But maybe I can offer just like Me Too's, you know? Because Me Too's it's like unconditional love. let's talk about relating to other people. Let's make those other people the ones that we've dealt with our whole lives. Either specifically or just types. And rubbing up against them in the bad way. I wouldn't say that I've always believed in God. I would say I certainly haven't always. There was a time where I didn't, because I questioned it. And then I returned to a sense of like agnosticism. And then over the last few years, it's like, oh yeah, okay, there's God. And I'm just using that word until, as a collective, we arrive at like a closer description. Because God is really just a title, right? But most people would say that they believe in God. And that has, over the last few years, but especially over the last year, started to really fucking bug me. Because it's not just believing in God, it's believing in anything. And people love to pay lip service with sounds and like social memes as agreed upon meanings. But words don't mean shit. If you believe in something, you live in accordance with that belief. And the belief comes after. Like, this is how you live. This is what you believe in. And then when you are asked or you self-reflect to describe it, like, I would say that I believe in. We'll keep using the word God. It could be anything. I say that in opposition to people saying, I believe in God, I believe in anything. I was going to say like Jesus. It's like, I don't fucking, same point. It's God. But people will say like, I believe in God, so. Or I do this because I believe in God. But it's not, you don't believe in God if you do things because you believe in God. If you would act differently because if you would act differently if you didn't believe in God, then you don't believe in God. Because nothing sways who you are. And how you live, the actions you take, internally, externally seeming. There is no self-justification for that truth. And fairly, that has been like a highly conditioned state of self-perception. The guilt and the shame that is Catholicism slash all the monotheistic religions, at least. And why I bring this up is because if people really believed in God, they wouldn't be so afraid. If people really believed in God, they wouldn't be so mean. If people really believed in God, they would believe that they are loved and so lovable. And if not, experiencing that in a way that is desired. That tragedy can cause confusion, but it wouldn't and couldn't take away one's truth of being loved. I don't mean to judge, but judgments, in a way, are classifications. So it's not really personal, unless I'm personally judging you, and then you'll know it, because I'll be like, I'm judging you from my bias of Elliot, my prerogative. So I guess just in relating that back to like rubbing up against people, being like, man, you suck. If it feels like people are incongruent with what they say they are, and you are so frustrated with that and so full of awareness and can relate to like having no desire to enlighten them in so much as they don't want to know anything, or which is like to say they don't want to have a conversation with you, then you're not alone. You're not alone in believing by like your strictest, sternest discernment that there are higher and lower powers from every direction. You are experiencing love from that. You are experiencing yourself as an aspect of Source, and gosh darn it, it feels like love. If you want to call it God, I'm going to call it God too. So you're not alone there either. And then just kind of creating a point of distinction, like a point of awareness, really. The same way that you can arrive at how do you know you believe in God? Like how? Like instead of that being a question on the qualification of existence of whatever, like, the end of the sentence is, in this case, God, like, how do you believe in God? No, focus on the how. Like, how do you do it? How do you believe in yourself? How do you believe in God? How do you love yourself? How do you love someone? How do you do it? And then you don't have to prove the unprovable. And I don't mean you can't know something like God or love, because you can, and not in your imagination, unless we're on the same page and the imagination is just as visceral as, like, am I imagining this handwriting? You know? Someone just thought something funny. Because you can't prove, like proving a concept. Anybody can prove a concept, and you just like make it a concept and then make the rules around it, right? But then that's all you need to do with yourself. How do you believe in God? You prove it to yourself by who your how is. And then be honest. What made me say that is love. Because people can be so caught up in not love. Trust me, I know. Not from experience, not from a presence. I'm very in love in many ways. And how I know is that I can't not. And it doesn't take anything. And I don't ask for anything. And yet I still receive. And receiving what I receive in love is formless. Taken form in the shape of an exchange or a kindness. But where it's from and where I receive it, it's bigger than me. And at the same time, the smallest piece of anything can be. The next thing, I wrote little notes because I'm like, I don't remember what I called this thing, but I know something about the body. What made me think of it was like, do you know where your body is? Do you know who your children are? And this is just like a little tidbit of like love for you, from me, as a product of my expertise. Thought, and by virtue of thought, the actions that result from it. As a form in the physical, we as life forms developmentally evolved oriented towards motion. It's a moving, like sight was light, was heat, was where we wanted to go. Find food, find a mate, but not to just be here, right? Even attraction of a thing attracting, it might not move, but it is still developing in a manner in regard to movement towards it or away from it. So our nervous systems are cued to, obviously, to move our limbs and to move and be motor, right? And there's a misconception that thinking in terms of language or in your imagination is separate. But all thought is wired in terms of direction. An example that I like to use is if I were to move my hand towards the screen and say away versus towards, in terms of the smallest pieces of time, while I say away, there's dissonance. I'm actually performing the act slower. So if you say something contrary directionally to what it feels like, the mind-body connection creates there's a schism there. And that's just the point that I want to make with that. You don't think with your head. Your brain isn't responsible for your thinking. Your nervous system is not broken into different parts. A neuron is a nerve cell, and brain nerve cells, spine nerve cells, all the fucking nerve cells, no matter what name you call it. And this isn't my theory. They're all nerve cells. So there's no point where your brain stops and becomes the nerves in your hands. So when you consider that, you can appreciate how doing pigeon in yoga. This was one of the first things that I remember hearing as a new yoga student. It's like when you're doing pigeon, it's like that pain is like all your ex-boyfriends and girlfriends. It's like, or how you have your emotions stored in parts of your body. Well, how can that make sense? Well, when you are feeling right now, what part of your body are you completely ignoring? Which toe? A side of your face? Which elbow? That is a chasm of where your electrical signals aren't conveying. And why that's important is that when you experience thoughts, when you experience emotions, Your nervous system does not give a shit what you think you are as much as what it wants to be. Let's say like low back pain. And let's say shoulder pain or neck pain, because they're different in occurrences, but that difference is useful. People experience low back pain when they don't experience their low back, or when they only experience their low back when it's in pain. When a part of your body might as well not exist until it hurts, it will hurt. And then flip the script. When you are doing the things that you love, either an activity or just great conversation, what parts of your body are you like really aware of? Because you can't not be. Like our hearts, our the belly laugh, our smiles, and then those same parts of our bodies. What activity that it respond pleasure to, like to the good we believe in? What are they susceptible to? By virtue of the emotions we experience when we are in like inner conflict. Because it's downright tragic. We only remember the parts of our body when we're experiencing them in some kind of peak. But then my heart has like died so many times, and my gut, that like pit of the stomach dread, that all happens in the same place. And my environment can be very different when I'm laughing as when I'm trying my fucking everything off or on, whatever. But how I know that environment is different is through my body, is through my experience of the environment. So my legs are doing a certain thing, my arms are doing a certain thing, my shoulders, my jaw, my ears, my insides, right? How tightly I'm or not, squeezing my butt, for instance. I'm not much of a glute clencher, but I'm learning, like, that, like, there's a tightness that can be held, like, intestinally, that is really subtle. And it's not so much that, you're going through this experience and then something creates like an adverse reaction, like emotional reaction. And you're like, yeah, okay, my heart, my belly. It's more like, okay, yeah, but when your legs, when you always feel heartbroken, you do this thing with your toes, you do this thing with your ears, you do this thing with your eyes that you don't know, so that when you do those things, they can get linked up to all the different other things that you usually do in a certain peak state, not knowing. And then all of a sudden you're like, what the fuck? I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm this, I'm that. And whether there's a good reason or not to feel that way, how you got there is away from you, away from us. So like when you look down and where your eyes look, now look, just keep looking down, but look towards the screen. Do your pupils move towards the screen? And then lift your head, but don't like keep looking in the same direction, like up. And now the screen is like in maybe the lower part of your eyes. So now let your eyes drop down towards the screen again. Okay? And then keep looking at the screen, but just turn your head in one direction. All right, so right now, your shoulders haven't moved. Your chest hasn't moved. The rest of your body hasn't really moved. All that's really moved is the orientation of your neck. And your eyes, actually, the focal point, they haven't moved too, but your eyes have moved in their relation to the rest of your head. Now, let your eyes drift back towards center. So you're looking in the direction of your nose. And then move your neck, your chin, your nose, but keep looking at the same point towards the screen again. See how you can see the same point? Now look towards the screen and look towards the same point. Go back and forth. Depending on your eyesight, it's going to be a little different. It's a good example for me because I do wear glasses. Blessing, learning opportunity. But my point is, you see how your peripheral vision shifts? There's no reason that your vision can't accommodate either point without moving your eyes. You can prove it. You're just proving it, right? Like you can look. There's the point, but it's still there. It's still there, hasn't moved. Still, same point. Nothing else has moved. And yet, when you move your eyes, see how your relationship with the rest of your body, like your shoulders, like it's subtle, but with practice, especially if you've got a yoga practice, which is really just like yoking you with yourself, or your perception with, your body. Lots of ways to say it. And my point is, you've got a big fucking brain. It goes from one pinky toe to the other pinky toe, and it travels through every fucking part of you in between. That's a lot of processing power. Like, you think you're strong, you think you're not strong when you try and lift something heavy. Recognize that you're not using your whole body. You're not using your whole strength. Because there are parts of us that are lost to ourselves. And I live this. My life is one grand experiment to myself. But you get stronger, not by lifting weights, but by integrating your whole body with everything that you do. And because that isn't separate from your emotions, you can learn to distinguish where your emotions move you and how you can prove to yourself what you are feeling and all the different ways of self-mastering that experience. So just to that point, try and be aware of the bilateral part of your body that is opposing whatever the fuck you're doing in any given moment. So more the obvious is like when you do something with your right hand, don't maybe do something with your left hand, but be aware of your left hand as you're doing it with your right hand, and then maybe imagine that you're using both hands every time. And then more subtly, especially if you wear glasses, because all our nervous systems are so different. We get wired in our own particular ways. That's why it's not useful to create just overall normative class clauses. If when you're looking or whatever, close one eye and just notice which eye is doing the looking. And then see if maybe you can't get both your eyes to look at the same damn thing. And then see if you can get both your eyes to not look at the same damn thing. But because your eyes are working together, you see what you're looking at. And everything else too. Just play. But there's more to you than meets the eye. So meet it. No? Yeah? No? What's the other thing I said? Oh yeah, this is again a small point. Humans, human beings, and humans. It's did you just say the same thing three times? No. See how I just nodded though? Fucking with life. Nothing is different. Everything's the same or not. Create distinctions because they're useful. Not every human is a human being. And I don't mean alien in this context. I just mean we say, this is another little pet peeve, that humans are classified away from the animal kingdom because of their self-consciousness. They're aware of themselves. I know I'm here. If you could fucking talk cheetah, be like, yo, Cheetah, do you know you're here? Cheetah be like, fuck, of course I know I'm here. That's not self-consciousness. And we live in a world fucking saturated with a bunch of humans and not a lot of human beings. Because self-consciousness is classified by agency. And when you keep looking at your phone and you can't, I can't not do that. Or it's like, if anybody that's running on autopilot at any given time is running on autopilot all the fucking time. Because you're either self-aware or you're not. And just because you can call yourself something in the mirror, right? If you've got no internal relationship with someone, right? Doesn't have an internal relationship with their potential ambiguity of like being, then they don't have a relationship with why they're being. So they're not a human being. They're a human doing. And if there are reasons that anybody does anything is because of others, then they're not a human being. They're human blaming. And this is I guess not a vent. There will be a vent. But I'm pretty vented. I remember this. I did write this blame. Yeah, it's a little bit of a vent. Humans look like us and sound like us from far away. Human beings take responsibility for everything that they are. And not all humans are human beings. I experienced this with a lot of the people that think that they love me or love themselves or that they're, I don't know, lots of pride. Like, I can't change. This is the way I live. This is just the way I am. And they say it like they're not special. You know, it's like, whatever, man, I'm just I'm just the way that I am. Just the way I am. Just the way I am. Like, it is Thanksgiving. I don't know what the fuck that even means. Because it's like, do you think that you're special then? Because you know some people can change. And so if anyone can change, then you could probably change. Unless, like, you're super special in this way that you can't change. And it's always in defending some fucking way of being that, like, is like, you're being a shit. Like, you're like this, or like, this is how I'm miserable. Whatever, I can't change this. You can't change anything. That makes no sense. Of course you can change. Have you ever tried prove it to yourself? Prove that you can't change by doing things that change you and then not changing. You can't say this to people. First of all, like you, I don't give a fuck. Like you, likely, I've learned from time, you can't change people. You can't change the people that you love. because you love them. Like change. I want you to change. Look, change. Like you can be happier. You can invite change. You can like showcase change. Right? But if you need like if one needs someone else to change to be happy with that other person, then like it has nothing to do with the other person. It's just an idea of them. And how and who a person is should not matter or change how much you love them, because you just love everyone and everything the same as much as they can let you. And what I'm experiencing a lot of this life, but in like these last like iterations of connection with others, it's like, nope. If you truly love yourself, then you love the people in your life. And they'll say that they love you, but if they don't love themselves, they will find whatever reason necessary, because they're not human beings. They're human. They're not responsible for their own actions. Like this is all just happening to them. Then you will unerringly be a reason for their misery. It has nothing to do with you. They could hone in on some aspect of you where you're like, yeah, like that is something that I'm working on. But it's because you're working on everything always. They'll find any reason. And the thing is, they won't tell you. They'll tell others. And they'll tell it themselves. That the reason they can't change, for instance, is because you haven't this or that. One way of looking at it is like, fuck it. There's lots of ways of looking at a lot of things. Just know that it's not your fault. And I know that too. Because it's not your fault. Just know that we're experiencing stuff like that together. I'm a huge fan of being proud of myself. Because I haven't always been. Ha ha ha. Like, I've almost never been. Which is why I am proud of myself. And pride has a dirty name because it's one of the deadly sins. I love them. My favorite is wrath. Big fan of lust too. And like sloth. Fucking sloth. Yeah. Or rather. But I'm not supposed to feel those things. They're deadly sins. And this I'm offering is just like a perspective that might be useful for a lot of different things. I'm proud of myself. But when someone is not proud of themselves, but instead of like use who they think they are to justify things. I don't know, I'm getting, okay, well, pride, lust, gluttony, fucking sloth. These are all not fucking misses when you be them. Be lustful. Be slovenly. Be these things as you're being them. When they are your choice, they are fucking divine. But when they are held up as things in and of themselves, that's when they're sins. That's when they're misses. Speaking from like my personal experience recently, just having people who, if like you ask them any other time, like, yeah, of course I love Elliot. He's my this, he's my that. But they don't act. You don't treat people the way you're treating me. If you love me, I understand like you're activated. And blaming me. But it's this like, you're this way, I'm that way. And I'm like, oh, I guess this is the line. It's like, this is a reality check. Coming from a fucking muggle. Whom like experiences me enough through time to like say stupid shit and be like, and I'm like, oh, that's actually not the case. Like I can, if you don't know about, diet this or health that or science this or physics that, life, whatever, just, fun facts. Then it's just like, no, oh no. When a person isn't proud of themselves and then acts from pride, it's a sin because they miss themselves. And that goes for every emotion. That goes for, that's the only sin. You can't do anything wrong. There's something wrong to do. Unless you miss yourself. The you that's being it. That's the only miss. I think that's it. I'll end with a couple of things that I heard that I liked, and I wrote down. Impassable is just another kind of passable. Talking about like a bridge that got burned down. So it's like impossible is only another kind of possible. Like, yeah, fucking right. And this is, I hate quantum mechanics. Not like what it proposes to be studying, but the terminology and the whole field, because it's like just suffused with like bullshit. But talking of like the double slit experiment and some. I just watched it recently, and so that's a frame of reference. And then physics, like the movement of an object is set by the initial conditions, of the force, the initial conditions of the environment of force. But in quantum mechanics and all the spooky shit, it seems to work the other way around. And whatever, man. I don't like. I've everything I've learned. If I've learned it, you can learn. Everyone can learn it too if they want to know. And I keep no secrets. But I just don't. I don't answer questions that don't get asked. But anyways, this way of putting it, I thought was really in a multivalent kind of way, kind and useful. Our misperception, truly, of whatever we call real, is that a path, like the journey starts with the single step, or wherever you are in your path, it's where your feet land, where you step next is what sets the path, and it's not about where you start. When considering your life path, any path, the destination sets the path. And when you always know where you're going, you're already there. Superposition. The sun and the moon are transiting, like my ascendant Venus is like conjunct my Neptune and opposed my Mars. Uranus is on my Venus. Mars is on my Pluto, like opposite my Venus and my fucking whatever. Saturn is like opposing it's like on myself. No, it's just so much fucking bananas. Consciousness flowing through whatever the fuck I am. And for all of that, I hope that I want you to know, this is what I'm telling you, that spending time with you. Yes, you. Yes, you. You. Yeah, you. I'm pretty aloof and very happily introverted. But anyways, like, it's like there's a little bit of like, I want to do it, 'cause whether it's like going out or connecting over the tube. And regardless, This is the impact. It's not about the impact. It's about the emotion. And this is some of the best time that I spent. With you. You're listening, and my listening to your listening. Because that's not intangible. It's just really subtle. And just because something can always get better doesn't mean it's not always also already the best. So thanks for just sharing yourself with me. It's the best part of my life. It's the most important. It's the most important best. Okay. Have a good night. I love you. Bye. Namaste. I'm gonna go. I'm a nap. I don't know. I love you. Have a good everything.